Hey friends, I'm Gio, and welcome to my channel. This week's story is a little darker than my usual stories. I will warn you in advance. Anyway, let's begin. Chapter 1. I sat in the library staring at the window. Some skateboarder was riding back and forth across the commons. Back and forth, even, rhythmic, stable. My life had fallen apart, and I had a decision to make. One that would change everything. Maybe even destroy my family. I bit the eraser on my pencil, enduring the heartache in my chest. Life had seemed so simple 6 months ago, back when I first met Mal. It was late August back then, move-in week. I needed the perfect couch to make my dorm feel like home. Only problem? I had about as much money as there were pages in my English textbook. $300, give or take. After work, I work at the school library. I walked into the Goodwill thrift 1.5 miles from campus. I needed something cheap to sit on. It didn't have to be fancy. It didn't have to be leather. It just needed to be a place to sit. They had 2 couches, one nice, one missing a leg. The nicer one was heavy, olive green fabric. The other was brown, vinyl, smelled like cigarettes, and looked like it had survived a house fire. I sat on the green one. It felt okay. The price was a little over my budget. I quickly called my brother, Kevin. His wife answered his phone. "Kevin's in the shower. Can I help?" Petra asked. "Found a couch, but it is too expensive. Anyway, could I borrow some money?" I asked. "Sorry, kiddo. We're already eating ramen. Maybe next month?" "No problem." A guy walked up, looking between me and the couch. "You look familiar," he said, brushing dust from the front of his shirt. "Where you been to get all dirty like that?" I asked. "Amboy Crater," he replied. "Isn't that 2 hours from here?" He shrugged. "I go there sometimes to think." His nose leaned just slightly to one side, the kind of old injury you get from running into something, or maybe taking a hit from life in general. Whatever caused it, it had settled into place years ago. I shrugged. "Name's Dan Carlson. I don't know you." "Mal Fredrickson," he said. "You thinking about the couch?" "Need one for my dorm. You?" "Same." He stepped closer, brushing his fingers over the fabric. Long, delicate fingers. "Where do you go to school?" he asked. "UNLV. You?" "Same," he said. "I'm a senior, engineering major, business minor." I stood, close enough to catch the musky edge of his cologne. "I'm a sophomore, English major, science minor." "I must have seen you around campus," he said. "That's why you look familiar." That was our first meeting. I didn't think anything of it. Chapter 2. A few days later, I was sitting in the dining commons with a cup of coffee, working on a paper. Someone's earbuds were leaking BTS into the air. Fresh cinnamon rolls had just come out of the oven, and I reread the notes on my phone. "Hey," someone said. "You're the guy from the couch. Dan, right?" I looked up. "Good memory. Sorry, I don't remember your name." "Nobody does. Just call me Mal." He slid into the seat across from me, setting down a tray loaded with cheesy noodles, chicken fingers, and a giant Sprite. "Did you buy the couch?" I asked. He nodded, offering me a chicken finger. "We got it moved into the apartment that night. It was heavier than it looked. Turns out it has a hide-a-bed. What are you writing?" "Essay on the Vietnamese poet Ocean Vuong," I said. "Ever heard of him?" "No." "He's a queer author who's written a ton of stuff. I'm looking at his book, Night Sky with Exit Wounds, from 2016. "What's he written?" I smiled. One line goes, "The most beautiful part of your body is where it's headed." Mal smiled. "That's deep. What does it mean?" The most incredible part of a person is that they can choose. He opened up his books and we ate as we studied. Not exactly a date, not a meetup, just casual. We ended up meeting 2 or 3 times a week, studying, talking, eating, anything. I read his papers. He proofread mine. We became friends. Chapter 3. It was mid-October when I first realized I couldn't shake the feeling that I had known Mal before. We'd become friends, fast, texting every day, sometimes talking late into the night, like we were making up for years we hadn't actually shared. Just before midterms, I was at his apartment studying for the exam. A 2-bedroom man cave with the olive green couch, a 65-inch flat screen, and a PlayStation. They had a black fridge covered with fridge magnets. They held little things like shopping lists and a picture of Mal with his parents and older sister. Mal was making dinner, nothing fancy. Spaghetti squash with jarred Alfredo, frozen chicken meatballs, leftover apple pies his mom had mailed, a couple of Coors Lights sweating on the counter. His roommate had taken a bowl of ramen and chicken nuggets back to his room. He had some online gaming event. We wouldn't see him for hours. Mal and I had talked about a lot of things over the 2 months since we met. But that night, I asked the question that would end up being the beginning of the end. It wasn't dramatic, just a simple curiosity. How did you break your nose? Mal stopped stirring the squash, though he kept the spoon suspended in midair. Girl trouble, the bad kind. He didn't turn to look at me. I felt my face heat. I thought you were gay like me. Bi, he said. Though if you look at my dating history, I could be ace. Then what about us? He finally turned to face me and gave me a small, tired smile. Let's just say I'm trying to come alive again. What happened? His eyes drifted toward the window, but they weren't seeing anything out there. Back in high school, 2 of us were in love with the same girl. Classic triangle. We both asked her to prom. She chose him. Like an insecure dweeb, I showed up anyway. Flowers, chocolates, the whole pathetic gesture, trying to prove that she'd made the wrong choice. We got into a fight. Me and her date. He broke my nose. Police hauled me out and took me to the ER. Ouch, I said. He nodded. Since I couldn't change cities, my folks helped me change schools. Never went back. You ever see them again? I mean, the girl and her date or anything? Someone said they got married, but I don't know if it's true. How come you never said anything before now? Mal turned the burner off and brought the pan to the table. I found 2 bowls in the cupboard and set them up. While Mal filled the bowls with the spaghetti squash meatball goulash, he spoke. It's not my proudest moment. Somebody filmed it and posted it. Maybe it's still up, I don't know. You ever watch it? Once. It made me cry because I was so stupid. Let's drop it, okay? Bad memories. Humiliating? He only smiled. That was the first time I spent the night. They say that the average couple sleeps together by the 3rd or 4th date. We'd known each other for 2 months before timing felt right. That night was the first. Chapter 4. I should have left it alone. Some things aren't worth knowing. TikTok has almost as many videos as there are conspiracy theories about Area 51. I tried searching, even narrowed the timeline. Too many to count. Tried YouTube, same issue. Maybe the original uploader had deleted it. I didn't give up. Thanksgiving arrived. My folks were taking a cruise. Kevin went to Petra's family. I told Mal my family wasn't around, so he drove me to his. You know what's funny? Though we occasionally talked about our families, we never went into details, like names. Mal know I had a married older brother. I know he had an older sister who lived with a guy, but they never planned on getting married. Mal was the baby of the family. It was while I was at Mal's house that the cracks began to form. His parents welcomed me, and his big sis gave me that look pit bulls do, sizing you up to see if you belong in their yard. I got to see the room where Mal grew up, now with a treadmill instead of a bed. It still had dusty shelves with dusty old trophies. Mal had played basketball back in high school. What caught my eye were the neatly lined up yearbooks, 4 from the same school I attended, and 1 from a different school. I checked the dates. Mal would be 2 years older than me, same as my brother. You went to Arborview High School, too? I asked. Until senior prom and the fight. Then I went to Centennial High School for the last couple of months. Did you know my brother? The blood flushed from his face. Your last name's Carlson? God, why didn't I put this together? No wonder you look familiar. He collapsed onto the floor, breathing heavy, fighting for breath. I knelt next to him. What is it? Get out! What? Why? His dad ran in, followed by his sister. Mal, breathe. You're safe. Talk to me, please, I yelled. What is it? Mal glanced at me, tears staining his cheeks, and asked the question that almost destroyed everything. Are you Kevin's brother? Chapter 5. I fell back, clutching Mal's hand. High school made sense now. I only knew that Petra had chosen my brother and that an old boyfriend had made a scene at a prom. Ancient history, except it wasn't so ancient. Mal and I had slept together 3 times by now. Our bond was strong. But could it survive this? It had to. Kevin had broken Mal's nose fighting over Petra. Petra had chosen Kevin. What happened? I asked. Talk to me, please. I love you. Mal began breathing normally again. I even fell for you. Tell me what happened, please. I held his hand. Mal didn't pull away. His face reddened, mouth pressed tight. I think you'd better go, his sister said, and the firmness in her tone suggested that if I didn't leave right now, she'd go all big sister on me. I grabbed my gear and headed out. I walked until the house was out of sight and called an Uber. Not to the dorm, but to my old house. I let myself in, found a box of crackers in the cupboard, and went to my old room. My old stuff was still there, mostly boxed up, along with random storage from the rest of the house. My yearbooks were still on a shelf gathering dust. Kevin and Mal were 2 years older. My sophomore yearbook. I searched through it for my picture, one of the geeky sophomore photos. Why do yearbook pictures always make you look goofy? I found my brother's, then Petra's. Hands shaking a little, I found Malachi Fredrickson. Happy grin, innocent eyes, smooth face, nose just a little straighter. Did that kid know the trauma that was about to happen? I plugged in the router and warmed up the old family computer. With all the new information, it only took 5 minutes to track down the video. It was still on TikTok, 47 seconds long. Prom night fight. Image was dark, a little grainy. Sound was good. Someone at the dance had taken it. Mal, in a suit and tie, hair slicked back, nervous smile, holding a heart-shaped box of chocolates and a dozen red roses. Music too loud. Say So by Doja Cat. Mal, please. The music swelled and I couldn't hear the rest of what he said. Petra stepped back and said something that didn't get recorded. Mal. More music and then the words, the Ferris wheel? You said it was magic. Kevin, get lost. You're making a fool of yourself. Mal, please. The music blotted out several seconds of conversation. Petra stepped back. It will. Kevin stepped forward, standing between Petra and Mal. Leave, now, I'm warning you. Mal, no, was all that I understood. The crowd had stopped dancing, though the music still played. Kevin stepped forward as if he were going to guide Mal away. Instead, something shifted, his posture, his face, and then Mal doubled over. The music drowned out the noise, but the crowd's reaction didn't. Roses scattered across the floor. Someone screamed. Mal went down and didn't get back up. When the camera steadied, his face was turned just enough that I could see something was wrong with his nose. The angle, the stillness, the way people backed away instead of rushing in. The video cut off there, but it was enough. More than enough. He lay in almost the exact same position I'd seen him in at the house. Chapter 6. My relationship with Mal was now officially over, not because of what I'd done, but because of my brother and his wife. I closed my eyes and thought back. I'd graduated 3 years ago, and my brother's senior prom was 2 years before that. The disastrous night was 5 years ago, yet it still dictated our actions even today. Mom and Dad had mysteriously left that night, keeping it quiet. Kevin had to see a judge and was suspended for 3 days. Rumors were that Kevin had been drinking and gotten into a fight. Dad told everyone that Kevin got pulled over drunk at school and that he had to take 6 months of DUI classes. It faded away when the next scandal came along. Mom and Dad had lied to cover for their firstborn. Kevin might have been drunk that night, but he never had to take DUI classes. What was I going to do about it? Confronting my brother would be pointless. Speaking with Petra wouldn't do any good. My parents would double down on the lie, saying something like, "Kevin learned his lesson, so let's forgive and forget, and be glad no one was seriously injured." My stomach began to ache. Mal was gone. Kevin had turned into a creep. Who knew what Petra was anymore? I shut down the computer, unplugged the router, and put the yearbooks back. Once the house was locked up, I took an Uber back to college. As far as Thanksgivings go, this one was almost as bad as the time Grandpa lost his teeth in the gravy. Okay, this one was worse. I was the only person in the dorm Thanksgiving night. It gave me time to think. What did I want out of life? What direction did I want to take? I'd like to say I had a mind-blowing revelation that night. But the secret to survival is a spoon, fudge ripple ice cream, microwave popcorn, and for the next 11 hours and 54 minutes, I streamed every Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Chapter 7. I respected Mal's wish. Because of my brother, I'd been dumped. It hurt in a way I wasn't prepared for. Mal and I had grown close, become friends, lovers, and having it end so abruptly left questions I didn't dare ask. I'd been dumped before. It always hurt. But this time felt like something had been carved out of me. I hadn't talked to Kevin or Petra since the video. When my parents got back from their cruise, they hosted a family dinner to show their photos. I declined, blaming schoolwork. They went ahead without me. Life after Thanksgiving moved on, even if I hadn't. 2 weeks passed without a word from Mal. Finals were coming, and I tried to bury myself in prep. I grabbed a coffee and a cinnamon roll, sat in the dining commons, and pulled out my Bluetooth. The room smelled like fried potatoes and pizza sauce. I had a 500-word essay due in 3 days, and it needed 3 references. I told myself that the final draft had to be perfect, as if perfection could fill the space Mal left behind. I'd chosen environmental threats to dolphin populations. Ecology had once been an interest, something I'd let slip when life got busy. When Mal had filled my thoughts instead. I sensed him before I saw him. Mal walked in with his head low, shoulders sagging, earbuds in. He didn't meet anyone's eyes. My breath caught. My body remembered him before my mind did. I almost waved, but then I remembered I was the brother of the enemy. I packed up and left before he could see me. At least, I hope he didn't. Later, at the circulation desk, I worked on my rough draft with a book on dolphins beside me. My phone displayed a website charting how dolphin populations had shifted over the years. A presence loomed. Mal, black hoodie, haunted eyes, nose slightly off, no smile. He held a hardcover copy of The Name of the Wind, a book I didn't recognize. His eyes were red, his skin pale, his hands shook as he handed me the book. And suddenly, I remembered everything. His laugh on a Saturday morning, his shelf of fantasy novels, the way his hands had steadied me after a bad review. "Hi," he said, eyes darting down. "Can I check out a book?" What he really meant felt obvious. "Can I talk to you?" I swallowed. "Yeah." He nodded, unsure how to continue. I took the book. "Student ID, please." He fumbled it out of his wallet with stiff, zombie-like fingers. I scanned the ID and the book. "Patrick Rothfuss? A new author?" "Not really," Mal said. "He doesn't write like Stephen King, 2 books a year. It's more like one every 3 or 4 years. He's written a few short stories, but only 4 novels." "Have you read them?" He nodded, face reddening. He took a deep breath, the exhale turning ragged. "Yeah." I placed my hand on his. "So you're checking out a book you've already read?" His eyes glistened. "Some things," he whispered, "need second chances." Chapter 8. Somebody tell me the logic. Mal and I agreed to meet Saturday, the weekend before finals. My paper was due on Monday. I had a killer test on Tuesday. The library needed extra help manning the desks, and my parents were organizing a Christmas party for Sunday night. All I could think about was Mal. So we went to a neutral place to talk, grab something cheap to eat, and relax. What did we do? We went bowling. Brooklyn Bowl was a short drive. Mal picked me up, and we chatted about anything safe. No families, no Thanksgiving, not my brother, not Petra, and especially nothing to do with prom. The weather was okay. The place smelled like leather and shoe spray. I thought I was over it, Mal said, after his ball knocked down every pin except the 2-end ones. A 7-10 split. What triggered it? Me? I stared at the split. 1 pin on the far left, 1 on the far right, both refusing to fall. That sucks, man. That's one of the hardest shots in bowling. What are you going to do? Go for the left or the right? Mal waited for the ball to return, the machine clunking and humming. He smiled, but didn't reach anything in his face. You were a landmine. A booby trap, I said softly. I didn't mean to be. I know. None of it's your fault. He picked up the ball, looking away. I saw the video, I said. It took a while, but it's still up on TikTok. Didn't go viral or anything, maybe 300 views. Figures, Mal replied. He walked to the end of the lane, lining up his shot with careful, practiced aim. My sister talked me down. She's good like that. I don't think your family likes me much, I said. He released the ball. It curved, struck, and took out the right pin, leaving the left one standing. Alone. They actually do, Mal said, a small smile flickering through the clouds on his face. Mom's embarrassed and wants a redo. Dad agrees, as long as we don't have turkey. And my sister thinks we left a bad impression and scared you off. We began talking then. Really talking. This time we weren't accidentally hiding anything. Each time the pins went down, we opened up further. Mal told me about prom, about the emergency room, about transferring schools. I told him what I knew about that night, about how they got married and were struggling financially. in the middle of a bowling alley, with retired couples shooting random balls, bumpers blocking some of the lanes, weird music chomping through the speakers. We spoke and connected. Our relationship would never be the same. It was deeper now. We knew each other's truths and pain, fears and dreams. Instead of going to my Christmas party, I went to see Mal's family. Chapter 9. I had finished my Tuesday final and was heading for the English department office to pick up my graded essay when my phone rang. Mom. What's up? I asked. There was a slight pause. I haven't seen you since before Thanksgiving. Everything all right? I've been busy. Work, finals, life. New boyfriend? Her tone was teasing, but I heard the probe underneath. Maybe, I said cautiously. Too soon to say. What's his name? She heard my hesitation and shifted instantly. What's wrong? Should I lie? Should I tell her about Mal? Don't play games, Mom said, her voice tightening into that mama bear firmness. I can't help if you don't tell me what's going on. I blurted the truth before I realized how it sounded. Can I trust you? You won't say anything? What happened? I confessed half the truth to avoid the full disaster. I've seen the video. What video? The one where Kevin beat up Malachi Frederickson at prom, broke his nose, sent him to the ER? Mom inhaled sharply. Damn, I prayed TikTok deleted old videos. It's complicated, baby. Why keep it secret? Malachi was a harmless kid stuck in a love triangle Kevin made ugly. You hushed it up, told everyone Kevin was drunk and had to do DUI classes. Mom withdrew. I could hear it, her voice going colder, thinner. It's not my story to tell. I nodded even though she couldn't see. Is that why you made me stay at Grandma and Grandpa's the summer after Kevin graduated? Silence. So anyone who crosses Kevin at the wrong moment can expect to get beat up? No, it's not like that, she protested. It's exactly like that, I said, which is why I won't be coming over when he's around. Are you scared of your own brother? She asked. I thought about Mal, about the video, about my family burying secrets like landmines. Yes, I am. I reached the English department building just as Mom said, You're blowing this out of proportion. Don't think so. You have to understand, your dad and I did what we thought was best for the family. Another case of, what you don't know won't hurt you? Guess what, Mom? It already has. I've got to go. Chapter 10. Mom texted an invite for Christmas Eve. Big family party with the grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, even some neighbors. I declined, saying I had other plans. Dad called. We don't meet together as a family very often. Is Kevin and Petra going to be there? I asked, balancing the phone between cheek and shoulder while I scanned a couple of heavy books. Yes, he said. Everyone is. Not me. You don't need to be afraid of your brother, Dad said, his voice growing heavy. It's handled. No thanks. After work, I met Mal and we wandered to a club not far from campus. The Stardust. 2 dance floors, bouncers built like Rottweilers, and bartenders who looked like they'd been hired for intimidation as much as mixology. Our relationship had gone backwards. It felt like we were starting over. First date jitters, nervous conversations, shy glances. Friday night, finals were over. Christmas was next week. I had no plans. He had no plans. The music was so loud I felt it through my feet. Black walls, black ceiling, neon tubes casting a techno glow, a kind of electric Xanadu. In the dim light, his nose looked normal again, no slight angle. He stopped dancing, almost smiling. "What? Am I too sexy?" I teased. "Just thinking weird thoughts." "Like?" If Petra had chosen me, that is, you and I, would have never met. "Does that make me the backup choice?" I said, letting my voice flirt a little as I placed my hands on his waist. His eyes tightened. When he spoke, his voice carried a vulnerable edge I'd never heard before. For the last 5 years, I guess, I've been feeling sorry for myself. Why wasn't I good enough? What did I do wrong? If she didn't like me, then maybe others won't either. Why is it that the first love always leaves the worst scars? I said, softly. Mel snorted. Don't I know it? I led him to a table. We sat, ordered drinks, and I laid my hand on his. You're looking at the whole situation wrong. His eyebrows rose fractionally. Oh? She wasn't good enough for you, and from where I'm sitting, you don't look wrong at all. I let my thumb run slow circles across the back of his hand. He leaned in. Keep talking. I'm listening. Do you know what the best thing in life is? I asked, turning his hand over and tracing his lifeline with my index finger. His tongue flicked across his lips. Sitting with your boyfriend sipping tequila? Even better. I moved my chair so I sat next to him. I resumed holding his hand, tracing each line on it, lightly, slowly. His hand jerked. That tickles. I flattened his hand and kept tracing. I looked him straight in the eyes and bit my lower lip, pretending to be shy. Room service, I whispered. His eyebrows shot up. Excuse me? Sharing champagne from the same glass, I whispered close to his ear. Are you trying to seduce me? I let go of his hand and sipped my drink, letting the silence answer for me. His smile stretched across his face. You have a beautiful smile, I whispered. His cheeks warmed. I bet you say that to all the guys. Only the cute ones, I whispered back. I found his lips with my fingertip, tracing them lightly. Mal's back arched. The kiss was natural, two men aching for each other, needing each other, forgiveness melting into something softer as we moved closer. Our hands locked together. He tasted of tequila and lime, smelled faintly sporty. His eyes closed, and the moment became a slow melding of love, of desire, of something that hit me straight in the soul. For the first time since the Thanksgiving meltdown, we both relaxed into each other. Chapter 11. Christmas came and went. Though Mom texted me daily and Dad left messages, I never visited. My parents must have told Kevin I was afraid of him, because just before Christmas, he sent the oddest text. Bro, you don't have to be afraid. I stopped drinking. So much for Mom's promise not to say anything. They even sent a couple of Christmas cards with notes to call them. I didn't. I spent the holidays at Mal's apartment. Every day, every night. Didn't even go back to my dorm except for clothes. His roommate makes a mean black mole, and his chicken parmesan is worth the calories. I spent Christmas at his folks. Nice place, nice people. His big sister watches over him like a German shepherd on guard duty. The Sunday evening before classes started, I had to finally go back to my dorm. Dad waited inside, sitting on my bed. My roommate must have let him in. One sight, and my stomach didn't just drop. It bent my knees and took them to the basement. "Been here long?" I asked, carrying in a garbage bag filled with dirty clothes. I hoped my voice didn't quiver. Mal followed, carrying my backpack and a couple of grocery bags filled with random things, like clean boxer briefs and deodorant and toothpaste. "You haven't been staying here," Dad said. A statement, but it was true, no sense in denying it. I set the bag down and folded my arms. "It's a bit of a drive." "We were worried about you. Who's this?" Dad's eyes squinted just a touch. "My boyfriend," I said, hoping to deflect Dad's attention a little. "What do you really want?" Dad looked at Mal, pursing his lips, then focused on me. "We're family. You're my son. For some reason, you're avoiding not only your brother, but us. I'm here to have a conversation about why." I glanced at Mal. His mouth tightened. Dad didn't move. His posture suggested that he would wait all night. I inhaled. Dad wouldn't leave until he had an answer. I wouldn't make things rough for Mal, so I went on the attack. "I don't want a broken nose," I said. Dad's mouth opened a little, then closed. "I saw the prom video," I said. "I saw my brother go berserk and attack a guy holding chocolates in the middle of the prom. So what if that was his romantic rival for Petra's affections? He went ballistic, and all the guy did was stand there. So yeah, I'm scared he'll do the same thing to me." "You don't know the full story," Dad said. "Because you won't get off your damn morally superior attitude and tell me." Dad looked at his shoes. His hair had gone grayer. He'd gone balder. He seemed tired. "I'm not going back," I said, almost yelling. "Not to anything he's at." "You're breaking the family," Dad said, his voice growing brittle, almost angry. "I don't care." Mal stepped behind me, holding me. "Calm down, love. It's okay." His presence stilled the storm raging inside me. Dad looked up then, not at me, but at Mal. "How did you know about the rivalry? The video only showed your brother attacking Malachi." Dad hadn't recognized Mal? Time to divert Dad's attention. "So you and Mom lied to me and the whole family. When you sent me away, what was that for? I wouldn't learn that you put Kevin in some kind of psychiatry program, so I wouldn't know that my precious brother was being hauled away by the police, so as few people as possible would know that Kevin wasn't the perfect son you were so proud of." When Dad didn't say anything, I sighed. "You were so busy protecting Kevin, you forgot you had 2 sons. I think you'd better leave before I say something I might regret." Dad stood up and looked at me, really looked. "Sometimes you have to make a choice, and it might seem right at the time, but you always lose something." Mal nodded. 7-10 split. Go for the left or the right, but you can't hit both. I don't know if Dad understood the bowling reference, but he walked to the door, seemingly older now than when he had entered. He turned at the doorway, rapped his knuckles twice, and asked, "Are you Malachi Fredrickson, the kid my son hit back in high school?" Chapter 11. Mal froze. So did I. We stared at my dad. He stared at us. His eyes widened. Mal's arms tightened about me. Mal broke the silence. "I go by Mal. Dan and I met just before fall semester. We fell in love. Then I found out Kevin was his brother." "It almost ended our relationship," I said. "Does Kevin know?" Dad asked, standing taller. "No, and it's going to stay that way," I replied. I don't want anything to do with him or Petra. He's changed, Dad replied. I'm not taking that chance. Dad's jaw hardened. You're judging your brother for a simple mistake? My God, he was 17. Kids do dumb things all the time. Mal was 17. Kevin humiliated him and broke his nose during prom. If anything is unforgivable, that's it. Do you know how I spent prom? Mal said, letting me go, his hands curling into fists that remained at his side. I spent prom night in the ER getting my nose flushed because the bleeding had backed up. The next Monday, I changed schools, and I saw a therapist for a year. It took me months before I stopped having nightmares, and years before I started dating again. Did Kevin say sorry even once? Did Petra? She caused all this. I was yelling. Dad looked up, startled. So you spit on the family who raised you? Open your eyes. Malachi has poisoned your mind. Get off your high horse and face reality, I said, trying to calm down. Kevin ruined Mal's life. His family had to pick up the slack. No, Kevin doesn't get to be selfish about this. He's caused a lot of pain, and you're enabling him. Dad looked at Mal, his expression heavier. I don't know what this man has told you, but you will come home right now with me. No, I'm 21. There is no excuse for what Kevin and Petra did to me, Mal said. I might have been a stupid, foolish kid hoping for love, but that didn't give them the right to treat me like that. Dad whirled on Mal and shouted, You stay away from my son if I ever see you again. Shut up, Dad, I said. You don't like hearing the truth? Dad was yelling back now. Your boyfriend is using you to take his bitterness out on the family. I think you'd better go, I said. Dad stared at me, his eyes moist. Someday when you realize the truth, don't be surprised when we aren't there. Like you ever were, I yelled. Family doesn't send their kid to their grandparents to get him out of the way. Dad inhaled sharply, like I'd hit him. We were trying to protect you. No, I said. You were protecting Kevin. Get out. At least he didn't break the family. Once Dad left, I exhaled. Was Dad right? Was this my fault? I'm sorry, Mal said, eyes tearing. His hand momentarily covered his face. He looked at me, eyes pleading. For what? I don't know. I'm sorry, Mal said again. He shuddered as if something had broken inside him. He fled down the hall. Mal, wait, I shouted. But he was long gone. Chapter 12. I ran outside, barely in time to see his car leaving the parking lot. Damn, I ran for my car, an old piece of junk held together by spit and duct tape. Mal's car was nicer, yet by the time I exited, I couldn't see his car. I drove along the streets, hoping to see something. A fire engine passed, lights strobing in the late afternoon sun. The air had cooled, smelled of burgers. Not knowing what to do, I drove to Mal's apartment. No car. I had a key, so I let myself in. It was just as we had left it. Nobody was here, not even the roommate. I tried calling, straight to voicemail. Texts remained unread. Maybe he'd gone home. I drove out to the Fredrickson place, remembering Thanksgiving, the casual parties, the fun. His car wasn't there either. I knocked on the door. His mom answered. I told her what had happened. She called his sister, his dad. They drove to his favorite spots, searching. I drove to Starburst. No car. To the bowling alley. No car. My spine began to itch. I couldn't warm up. By midnight, his mom thought about calling the police. My stomach became a painful hollow. By 3, his sister wanted to rip into my father, stopping just short of murder. By 6, I collapsed at his apartment, told his roommate what had happened, tried to sleep. Mal never came home. I called my roommate. Mal never showed up at my place. The bed we had once shared remained empty. On the table, tucked into a quarter so it wouldn't get lost, was the receipt for the night when we went bowling. A small, innocent piece of paper, yet it represented the night.
We reconnected. I left it there and returned to my car. Every car I passed, I checked to see if it was his. None were. Each was another slap. Each empty parking space a silent scream. By noon, I reported for work, told my coworkers to tell me if they'd seen him. No one had seen him. My boss asked if I'd eaten anything. I told her I wasn't hungry. She brought me a Gatorade and a protein bar. The police came to the library, looking for answers. Did he mention any place, any friends? We went bowling, but I've already checked there. We have an APB out for his car, but nothing yet. If you hear anything, call us. He handed me his card, and it said, Officer Niles Ellerby. I tucked it into my pocket. When my shift ended, I checked my place again. Nothing. His place. Nothing. His parents hadn't found him. The police hadn't found him. He's spiraling bad, his sister said when I called her. You don't know how fragile he was after that night. Something cold sliced through me. My hands began trembling. I couldn't stop myself. I closed the call and drove. Not aimlessly. I knew where I was going. Since I couldn't find Mal, I'd do the next best thing. My eyes burned. It had been 36 hours since I last slept, and my body ran on fumes and energy drinks. I'd never been so tired, but I wouldn't give up. The anger pooled under the surface, ready to explode. I drove to my parents' house. Chapter 13. Mom had dinner on the table when I barged in, a chicken casserole, white wine, Brussels sprouts, and butter sauce. All four of them looked up. Mom, Dad, Kevin, Petra. I focused on my dad, on my brother, not giving them a chance to speak. I shouted, I screamed, I let every ounce of the fury out. Son, that is not how we talk in this family, Dad said. Do you think I even want to be in this family? You've always protected Kevin. It's always Kevin is so good. I'm so sick of it. He destroyed Mal's life, and does he even care? You mean Malachi Fredrickson? Mom asked. Dad offered a placating smile. Dan's dating him. Thinks he's in love. Mal's a lot nicer than any of you, and because of what you said, he's missing. Missing? Kevin asked. Why do you even care? He wanted a little kindness. You destroyed him back at high school. Do you think breaking his nose was enough? Humiliating him in front of the whole school was enough? Dad being the bully back in my apartment? Was that enough? Settle down, Petra said quietly. It wasn't Kevin's fault. There were other issues. Mal was a normal kid until you got through with him, Petra, I said. All I see is a bunch of selfish people who don't care who they destroy. Enough, Dad roared. You will apologize immediately. You don't understand, Mom said, flashing that innocent little smile. Petra started crying. It wasn't Mal's fault. It wasn't Kevin's fault. I understand enough to know that my family disgusts me, I said. Mal's out there, and I have to find him. I had to choose Kevin, Petra almost whispered. A finger wiped an eye. I spun to face her. What does that even mean? Don't say anything, dear, Mom said. Petra continued anyway, her face turning gray. 2 days before prom, I had missed my period. The test said I was pregnant. I told Kevin that night that he was the dad. A month later, I miscarried. Chapter 14. I looked at Petra. The room had gone silent. A clock ticked somewhere. Slow, steady. Mom smiled. We can set an extra plate out. Would you like to join us? We can talk about this as adults, Dad said, his voice taking on that reasonable dad tone that always made me feel like a 2-year-old. No, I said, looking at Kevin and Petra. Somebody needs to fix what you broke. Give it a rest, son, Dad said. It's been 5 years. Focusing on Kevin, I simply stated, how much of that night have you forgotten in the last 5 years? Their faces blurred together. Shock, denial, fear, and suddenly I couldn't breathe. Nothing I said would change their minds. To them, only Kevin and Petra mattered. The room became tight, claustrophobic. This wasn't the family I remembered. Dad was in full negotiating mode. Mom got up to retrieve another chair. Kevin held Petra's hand. Petra leaned into her husband. Family bliss. I didn't belong here. Not anymore. Kevin was the priority. This trip had been hopeless. What had I expected to accomplish? I left, driving aimlessly. My parents called. I let it go to voicemail. Kevin texted. I didn't respond. Petra remained silent. I slept on the olive green couch back at the apartment, reported for work at the library. I sat in the library staring out the window. Some skateboarder was riding back and forth across the commons. Back and forth, even, rhythmic, stable, like the clock. My life had fallen apart, and I had a decision to make, one that would change everything, maybe even destroy my family. I could hold out for Mal, or go back to my family. Mal didn't want to be found, and could I blame him? Could I even find him? I bit the eraser of my pencil, enduring the heartache in my chest. Life had seemed so simple 6 months ago, back when I first met Mal. I replayed that conversation in my head. He said he'd been at a crater. Which one? I pulled up landmarks in southern Nevada. Only one stood out. The Amboy Crater. But it was in California. I made the decision without thinking. I found my boss. I know where Mal is. I gotta go. It's a slow day. Make up the hours on the weekend. Tell him we're all worried. More than a 2-hour drive. The town of Amboy is in California, just off Route 66. I filled up, grabbed extra sandwiches and drinks, and drove, letting Google lead the way. Was it crazy to drive 137 miles on a suspicion? Some part of me knew he was there. He had to be. The Mojave changes colors as the sun sets. Sometimes it's red or purple or colors they haven't named. The intensity made me want to cry. I guzzled another energy drink to stay awake. I had to find him. The sun was setting when I arrived at the remote rest area. The desert, quiet, absorbs all noise. Only the faint whistle of the breeze made any sound. One car was in the parking lot, covered in dust, a shadow against the dunes. Mal's. Chapter 15. Mal sat in the desert, a couple of beer bottles beside him, staring into the distance. Amboy Crater is a dormant volcano that scientists estimate last erupted 10,000 years ago. The crater is 1,500 feet from edge to edge and is surrounded by an ancient lava plain. 25 stories tall, it was a dark cone nearly gray in the fading light. Mal sat at the edge of the desert, just staring at the crater. My stomach relaxed. He was alive. I sat next to him, placed my arm around his shoulders, and let him lean into me. I dialed his sister. She picked up on the first ring. Found him, I said. Is he all right? Mal took my hand and blessed me with a tender smile. I am now. A year later, Mal and I rented a hall and pronounced vows. I had lost contact with my parents, my brother, and his wife. They weren't comfortable being around Mal, and we weren't comfortable being around them. When we stood in that rented hall a year later, I didn't think about who wasn't there. Losing my parents hurt, but loving Mal healed something they never could. His family didn't replace mine. They simply showed me what family was supposed to feel like. And when Mal smiled at me, the same way he had at the edge of that old volcano, I knew I'd finally come home. Thank you, my friends, for joining me for this story. It's a little darker than I normally write. I hope you enjoyed. I love you all. Peace, my friends.